Why did more than 200 techniques unfold? I've often wondered this myself. If stillness is the ground of what we are, if presence is what remains when everything else quietens, why did more than 200 techniques continue arriving over more than a decade of live teaching? Why not one technique? Why not simply sit, be still, meditate, allow what is already here to become apparent? If Source, the universe, the field, whatever you choose to call it, had wanted me to teach meditation, why didn't it stop there? Why physical techniques? Why energetic work? Why the spatial work? Why working with another? Why touch? Why sequence after technique after sequence, each one distinct, each one working with a different aspect of the human system in a specific way? And I've sat with that question for a long time. And what I've come to understand is this. The human system is not one thing. It is many dimensions existing simultaneously as a single whole. The physical body, the mind, the energetic system, the energetic layers, the spatial field that extends beyond the immediate body, consciousness itself. Each dimension holds what it holds in its own particular way. And each dimension responds to its own particular form of direct work. And what I've noticed that a technique that opens something maybe in the physical body does not automatically reach another part of self. And work in the energetic layers may not automatically address the spatial field. And development in one dimension creates condition for development in another, but it cannot replace it. And the human system is extraordinarily complex, but not in a way that requires complexity to understand, but in a way that requires breadth to address. And so the techniques continued arriving. And it wasn't because the work was becoming more complicated. The techniques and sequences are so simple, but because the work was becoming more complete. Each new technique was reaching a dimension or a specific quality of holding that the previous ones had prepared the system for, but not yet directly addressed. And there is something I notice consistently across years of teaching. When a technique is first learned, it often feels very mechanical. And the student is remembering the sequence, they're thinking about the application, they're wondering whether they're doing it correctly. The mind is active. The technique is something being performed. And then as they continue to do the work, something begins to change. And it's not through a single breakthrough moment. It's not a dramatic thing. It's gradually. The technique becomes less something performed and more something expressed. The thinking quietens. The sequence becomes more natural. The application becomes precise in a way that thinking about precision never produces. And then something else starts happening. The technique itself seems to deepen. So students return to something they learned in their first few months and find that it meets them somewhere completely different from where it met them initially. The technique or the sequence is identical. The application is exactly the same. And yet something in the quality of what occurs is genuinely different. And like I said, it's not because the technique has changed. It's because they have changed. And you can relate this to like a pianist playing the same piece at 20 and again at 50. The notes of the piece have not changed. The score has not changed. And yet nobody who listened to both performances would say they heard the same thing, because the person expressing the music has lived 20 more years, and they have developed in ways that cannot be measured by technique alone. And that development moves through everything they touch. The techniques of peiec and this work are alive in exactly this way. They continue teaching long after they have been learned. They continue revealing something new as the person's system develops further. They are not a fixed set of things to master and then move beyond. They are vehicles through which the development of the practitioner continues to express itself across years of genuine practice. And this is also why the techniques are filmed and available online on our learning platform. It's the right architecture for how genuine development actually works, because what a technique offers at month 3 is genuinely different from what it offers at month 9 or year 2 or year 5 or year 7. The film teaching is always the same, and the student returning to it arrives as a different system, a system that has developed through months or years of sincere practice. And from that different place, watching the same film teaching reveals something that was not accessible on their first, second, third, 5th, 20th, 30th encounter. And this happens consistently. Students describe returning to a film technique they have watched many, many, many times, and suddenly feeling something move in a way it never moved before. And it's not because I taught it any differently, because it was filmed. It's because they arrived differently. That is the living quality of a genuine cultivation pathway. The techniques do not exhaust themselves. They deepen with you. They meet you where you are. They push you, in a sense. They push you further. And they continue taking you further as long as you continue developing. So why so many techniques and sequences? Because the human system is vast. Because every dimension of what we are carries what it carries in its own particular way. Because developing the capacity to meet life from genuine stillness consistently through every aspect of the system requires work that reaches every aspect. And because the work it's still arriving. What emerged through teaching 10 years ago continues to develop. New techniques continues to arrive in the moment of live teaching. The system continues to reveal what is needed as the students walking the path develop further. And so more work is given for them to develop further. This is what a living discipline actually is. It's not a fixed curriculum with a defined endpoint. It's a pathway that continues unfolding because the people walking it continue unfolding. And that unfolding does not have a final destination. It has a direction. And it's deeper into what we already are.